182 RGs. RG stands for retractable gear. These are both 182 RGs. The production years are 1978 to 1986. The 78 is a bladdered plane. It has bladdered fuel tanks. All the other years, the 79 to 86s have wet wings. So the turbo, 78 is bladders and non-turbo. 78 is first year of turbo. And then 79, a few small changes we're going to go over now, to 86. So here is a 1979, and here is a 1980, and the differences are the following. The first one being, Kerry in the front, can point that out.
Right here, if you notice on the cowling, it rolls over a little bit compared to the 1980 over here.
Which has a much steeper shell, flat top cowl.
Dead giveaway of the year differences. On the inside here on the intake, there's an oil cooler that's in the front, whereas yours,
the oil cooler in 80 moves from that intake to the back over here. On top of the engine down a duct. The oil cooler is here, so it leaves the opening a little bit more available for airflow.
The battery in the 1979 is located towards the rear of the engine, back here just in front of the firewall, whereas the 1980...
So in the 1980, the oil cooler is back here down a duct, and the battery that used to be here, that's in the 1979, is here. In the 80, it's been relocated to the back, where there's an access panel, right around where the 7 is on the end number. It is a 7.
Ding!
Right around where the end number is, there's an access panel. And inside there, there's the oxygen bottle, the battery access, the avionics bay, servos, drivers, and other things in the 1980. So 80 to 86s are the same. Minor differences, slightly different door handle, tiny stuff. But the differences, the big differences in turbo RGs is 79 to 80. That's why we have both of these here. So, how to identify a 182 RG from a distance on a ramp? The giveaway features. Obviously, it's a 182. From the firewall back, it is literally a 182. Firewall forward, very different. It's got a much squarer, blockier looking cowling because it's got a 540 Lycoming in it, carbureted at 235 horsepower as opposed to a 470 cubic inch Continental at 230 horsepower with a 1500 hour TBO in most cases. These 540 Lycomings in these turbo RGs are 2000 hour TBO with and without the turbo, and we'll go into more detail about that later. The biggest identifiable feature of it is that big square cowling plus gear doors. The gear doors obviously mean it's retractable. Now why is there a Lycoming in it? The 470 wouldn't allow the nose gear to retract fully under it because of its sump design. So they put a 540 Lycoming in it because of the way that the intake and the sump is back there. It allows more room for the wheel. And it turned out to be a very good system because this 540 Lycoming is capable of 235, 250, 260, 300, 350 horsepower, all in various different applications. To tell if it's a turbo or not, as opposed to a normally aspirated, the exhaust pipe. It sticks right out of the cowling in a turbo, and 2 of them stick out of the cowl flaps in a non-turbo. There is a slight reverse-engineered version of this plane available as a fixed gear. Those are built from 1980 to like 1983, and they were called Turbo 182 fixed gears. A good name, considering. They are literally this turbo-normalized front-end Lycoming of the RG in a fixed gear. They're called R182Rs, and there are probably 67 of them left in the US, and they're very popular for Civil Air Patrol in Colorado because of the turbocharging, but they're a fixed gear version of this RG. Okay, the wheels on a 182 RG. The main wheels are small because they have to be able to go in the wheel well. So that's a special tire. That's a 1505 on a 6-inch rim. It's short and fat. They're no more expensive. They're just unique to this application. The main thing to notice though is that the wheel diameter is quite small relative to the disc brake diameter. So you've got very effective double puck calipered brakes on a big disc relative to a small tire size. So they're very easy to skid. So if you're landing and your toes are on the brake, you'll skid the mains and flat spot them, and I've seen 2 on the same plane burst in the same landing. It's an 8-ply tire, so it takes a lot to do it, but it's very easy to skid them, and you'll see these planes parked on ramps with flat spots on their tires, and when they taxi, it's like with a do-do-do-do-do as you taxi, because you... So just be aware not to be on the brakes at all when they land. This plane will land at a fairly low airspeed anyway, but it's just something to be aware of, because on a larger diameter tyre, you don't have such effective braking.